Hello, how's everyone doing? Good. I'd like to thank everybody for being on the call, and we're going to have a lot of fun. For the people that were on my aborted call earlier, I apologize for that. I had my system lock up literally a few minutes before the webinar was supposed to start, and it I had to take everything apart, take it down. I had a root virus, crashed the system. It was horrible. And, we love technology when it works, but that's what happens, right? So, anyway, what I'd like to do today is how to look, feel, and have the energy of someone years younger. The keys to staying young. And I call this, of course, reverse aging hypnosis. And it's going to be a lot of fun, right? A lot of us have a passion about this. Right? Okay. What I'd like you to do is type rock on in the question box. Make sure. Okay, good. Good. All right, great. Now, what would happen if you could use your mind to feel and look younger? Right? What would happen if you could do that? Well, it would work and you would love it, right? Because it would be important to you. And it's no secret that we're living and working longer than ever, right? Our life expanded, lifespan is. There's some thought that we might not live as long as our parents if you're a boomer now, but it's quite a long lifespan for most people. So we're living longer and we're working longer than ever before. That's just we all know that. I always tell the story of I was in Walmart rather, when they had the greeters. Remember? Hi, welcome to Walmart. Anyway, I would go to this Walmart a lot, right? It was right by my house, and I'd see a guy, and you say hi, you start saying that. And he was a dapper-looking gentleman, and so one day I just started talking to him a little bit, and found out he literally was the retired president of a major corporation. I don't know if it's a Fortune 500, but it was definitely a big corporation. And had a very healthy pension. Because we started talking, he told me where he lived, and to live in that was literally on the water. I mean, it's like, what are you working at Walmart for? And he wanted something to do. So some people work because they have to as they mature. Some people work because they want to. But we're living and working longer than ever. And some people keep youthful while others age fast, right? We all know that. We have people we can think of that, like, it's not fair. They still look so young. And then others, it's like, hell, they looked old in high school, right? So why does that happen, right? And we all want to feel and look younger. That's just one of the facts, right? Except when you're a young adolescent male, you want to look a little bit older, but then as soon as you look older, you want to be younger, right? And they say energy drops as we age. And that's just one of those things that happen, right? And we will work longer than our parents did, right? And so, because of that, we want to keep our youthful vigor and our youthful vim, right? And so, because of that, we want to have some fun with it, right? Let's do what God intended, which is be happy, joyous, and free. So again, sorry about that. I had to click out, make sure everything's working. Since my system crashed, I'm a little penalized, right? And we'll work longer than our parents did, either because we have to or because we want to. And in our culture, society rewards youth and it penalizes age, right? And it just does. They always, in Hollywood, they always say that it's not fair because, male actors start getting the really good roles in their late 30s, 40s, and 50s, even in their 60s. And women, they peak in their 30s, right? There's a few exceptions to the rule, but it's just like interesting. But our society in general, we worship at the fountain of youth, and we penalize people as they get older. And it says what I tried, but what I didn't try everything on this list, but it's what is tried, right? Number one is people try surgery to look younger, right? And even if it can make you look younger, doesn't help how you feel. Maxwell Maltz, in his brilliant work, the Magic of Self-Image Psychology, because he was a plastic surgeon, would talk about how, he could do surgery on some people and it didn't help, and he could do little enough surgery on some people and it would help. All had to do with the image, right? But people try surgery, right? Fast growing, one of the fastest growing medical specialties, right? A lot of young doctors want to go into it because it's all cash generally, right? So, and then if people try fad drugs and potions, right? And the drugs may be pharmaceutical, human growth hormone, things like that, or it could be the over-the-counter, vitamins and minerals and all that, and potions and things like that, and all the, lotions and things people put on to try to look younger and feel younger, right? People try crazy diets because, it's like the Okinawan diet, eat a lot of algae, the algae things, or the crazy diets from the parts of the Ukraine where those people live so long, or whatever, right? Diets and foods, right? They read inspirational books, and they go to spas, things like that to try to do this, right? And why it doesn't work, why those things generally don't work. Well, of course, surgery can leave you looking horrible, right? I mean, all you got to do is think of some of the stars and, the side effects. From, just think of them. We all have them when you think of them, right? They do too much or, it leaves you looking horrible, right? The fad potions and drugs can have side effects. In the current sports world, all the buzz is on human growth hormone, right? And because it works, but there's side effects. If you take too much when you're too young, it shuts down your pituitary gland, so it's not going to make growth hormone, right? It's kind of like when guys take artificial testosterone when they're young, they actually speed up the effect of their body not making testosterone. So everything has a side effect. Even some of the over-counter, natural cures and remedies may have side effects, right? So, and just because it works for some people may not have the same effect on others. And those diets, those fad diet things, they're hard to follow. And again, is it the diet or is it a lot of other factors that come into play with the diet? And, when they point to that group of, I think it's like in the Ukraine or the Balkans, somewhere like that, but these people live, they're in their 90s, 100, they're still working the farm and all this. And of course, they eat a lot of yogurt and this and that, so that was why they pushed this yogurt diet for a while. And, but just because that diet works there, does that mean it's going to work in New York City or Boston or London or Tokyo? No. Same with, when you look at Okinawa where people live a long time and they eat a lot of fish and all that, vegetables. Is it the diet? Well, it might have a lot to do with it. Or is it the lifestyle? Is it the lifestyle and the diet? And that's what happens when you try to break out one piece of a system. It may be a key piece, but it's not the whole system, right? So it may have some limited effect, but not all you need. And of course, reading gives inspiration, but many times they don't give directions, right? And even like some of the research thing, it give you all this wonderful research, but unless you know how to implement it yourself, it doesn't give you the directions. Spas, they work. You come back from a spa, you may look younger and feel younger. It's kind of like taking a vacation, but it has a limited time effect. It wears off. You need something you can do regularly. And so what you basically need to do in 4 steps is, first of all, learn about the aging process, the current research, what's really out there about aging. It's something we all go through, and yet very little is really known about it, right? At least to the general public, right? And again, current medical models, they don't look at what's normal. They wait till something's broken and then try to fix it, right? And what we need to do is find youthful models of aging right? Find models that these people are youthful as they mature rather than old, right? And what this begins to do is remove those negative beliefs, and then you need to install new beliefs about aging and the whole process, right? You need to find youthful anchors and use them, which will also help you begin to develop a support network, which is important, right? Because society will not support you in this, right? And you need to stay youthful in your entire life. Youthful in mind, youthful in body, youthful in spirit, right? So step one, the aging process. What's normal? This is where it gets interesting. What's normal? I sent out an email, and it's on the membership site, about the guy that was in his 90s and set the world bench press record, right? And is that normal? Or is, the lady that's 100 and something and still teaching yoga, is that normal? I use the example of a person I know who 80, I think he's 82 or 83 right now, and he still flies on the trapeze 1 or 2 days a week. Is that normal? Is that what people should do, right? Think of Angela Lansbury in her 80s still doing leads on Broadway, the entire 2-hour play, right? So she got to learn all the lines. There's no cueing. And for people that didn't know that, no, there's no cueing. They don't have earbuds in. They're doing the play live, right? So is that normal, right? So what's normal? This gets into that whole thing. Of course, those of us in hypnosis and NLP, what we do, is it considered normal, right? It's not the traditional, right? What's abnormal? Again, is the guy lifting weights in his 90s and bench pressing 100 and I think it was 80 something pounds? That's a lot of weight. I don't know what his body weight was. That's a lot of weight. Very few people, men included, even in their teens and 20, would probably have trouble bench pressing their body weight, right? And people have never lifted free weights. You think you could till you go try it, right? Those of you that's tried it know what I'm talking about. So what's normal? What's abnormal? This is step one. So you want to think about what's the Western attitude toward aging, which is, get out of the way for the young people. We worship at the fountain of youth. That's the Western attitude, right? They push you out to pasture, things like that. What's the current research out there? This is where it gets very interesting. There's a lot more research being done that we really don't know that much about aging. But what we do know is some of the things that we currently do actually makes it much worse. When people start getting older, first thing they say is my memory's getting bad. My memory's getting bad. I can't remember names. I can't remember this. Well, what they found when they look at a memory test, the memory tests are skewed for people in their 20s and 30s, right? Actually late teens, 20s, maybe early 30s, right? Because who's writing the test are people in that age group. So they're actually, a lot of the, it's more geared for that. So if you're older than that, you may not score as well on that instrument, as they say, right? So is it that your memory's fading, or is it the instrument? Because if they take a younger person, and if they made a true test for the memory of someone in their 50s or 60s, and use terms and things from someone in their 50s could remember, like about the 70s or something like that, that people in the younger people, it wouldn't pay as much attention. There was a lady, Dr. Langer, and she teaches at Harvard, and she talks about, there was a study they did, and it was about aging, and we'll get to that. But what was fascinating is she said, one day she just realized she couldn't remember people's names like she used to be able to. And of course, first thing you start thinking, my memory's slipping. Oh my God, first stages of Alzheimer's or dementia. I'm losing my cognitive abilities and this and that. And then for some reason, the way I heard it, she took a meta step, right? Went back and just looked at it. And she goes, when she was a research assistant, graduate assistant and things, it was important to know everybody's name, especially all the senior people on the project, right? As tenured professor, she doesn't have to know your name. People come and go, It's not important, right? So what they really found is as you mature, where you've put your focus and what you want to remember is different than when you're younger. It's not that your memory's any necessarily worse. It's just that what you're putting your focus on is different than when you're younger, right? Someone in their 50s might not be as hip on a lot of the fashion because they don't find it that important to them at the time, right? So it's that, it's fascinating, right? The other thing they find is, when people start thinking they're losing their cognitive abilities, people around them try to help them to make life easier, set a schedule, do this, which is absolutely the worst thing you can do, right? Because it takes away the ability to learn. And, I was really thinking about this when year and a half, 2 years ago now, I became the consulting psychologist for some assisted living facilities and and a traumatic brain injury place where people live, but especially the assisted living. Because again, I began to see that, certain people in there were vibrant and youthful. The lady I work with, she had some depression for some other things, but she generally was vibrant and youthful in her 80s. And then I had people in their early 60s that could barely do anything, right? But again, then it made me step back and look at the facility. All the rooms look alike. The schedule is set in stone. Breakfast is at 7:30 or whatever, 7 a.m. Lunch at 11. Dinner at 4. Snack at 8. I mean, it takes away any kind of thought process. And there's no input about what you want to eat or anything like that. Many times at lunch, it was just what they had. It's like it takes away, so you don't have to use any cognitive ability. So where we think we're helping, now the current research says it's actually worse. There was a study done in the 70s, and I'm going to refer back to this later too, late 70s, where they took people, they were in their 70s and 80s then, but they took them out of assisted living and nursing homes and put them in a different environment. And what happened was, in this environment, they made it as 1950s as possible, right? The decor, the little black and white TV, the only music that played was music from that era. They went out and got magazines, laid around magazines, got some newspapers, put those around. Everything was from that era. They had the people dress from the era as much as they could. The staff wore totally neutral clothes, so you couldn't tell. They couldn't wear like digital wristwatches, things like that. And what they found when they put the people, and they put a lot of, I don't want to say pressure on the people, but they made them much more self-reliant. Carry your own bags, do this, do that. There were some people, I can't carry my bag to my room. Well, you figure out how. And I mean, these people became much more resilient. But anyway, and they began to talk in current tense of like what's going on with Eisenhower and the things that were going on in the 50s. But anyway, at the end of the study, all the measurables of the people improved drastically. Their physical skills, their mental skills, their memory, everything improved drastically. And so when people went back to their facilities, they were like, the staff couldn't recognize some of them, right? Because they made such great improvements. Of course, they went back into the very set routines and environments, and they disintegrated rapidly. But anyway, what it pointed out was a lot of what we know about aging is it's not what we think we know. So again, what's normal? What's abnormal? Right? And so they're finding out all this, that, these age curves are very misleading, right? And so what we want to do is begin to get, what's an example of normal aging? Do we have one, right? So whatever you think of as normal aging, chances are, those of us that know about hypnosis and NLP, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what you're going to do. Why don't you replace those with youthful examples? The bodybuilder in his 70s. I was in a show, and they needed bodybuilders. And so I didn't do the one part. I did this part where I had to like flex and do this. So had a few weeks, I buffed up a little bit, and he couldn't get anyone that was in shape. And so I knew a guy from the health club in his 60s, right? That's in fabulous shape. He's a bodybuilder. And he came and did it. And so we got to the scene where we had to pose, take our shirts off, and do that. It's Little Abner, where you get a muscle youth serum and things, Anyway, we were in better shape than the dancers. And that was kind of interesting, right? So, and again, some of the comments that were said, and I'll link back to this. Some of these people saying, well, it's easy for you guys. Really? I remember one person saying that, and the other guy was kind of funny. Mick, he went and he goes, really? You're standing there eating a donut and telling me you think it's easy. Well, I don't. It was just kind of funny. But we need to replace what we consider normal aging, right? And to do that, we have to really look at what are our current beliefs about aging. Think about what you hear. Well, when you get to be my age, people at this age, people at this, act your age, whatever it happens to be, right? Anyway, what are your current beliefs? And then, and only then, can you remove negative beliefs, right? Because you have to know what they are in order to remove them, right? And then you need to install positive beliefs about aging. And to do that, of course, you have to find those youthful examples. You have to see them, hear them, feel them, and really begin to take that on, right? And it shifts your mindset about aging, right? And to do that, you have to take action. It's not enough to think about it. You have to do it. And to do that, right, we're going to do an example in a little while. When did you feel your best? What age were you? And what year was that chronologically? Okay, going in my junior year in high school, 1972, right? So, because your brain can find markers in age, and we're going to come back to this, and a lot of this has to do with the research I was talking about, right? What were you doing where you felt your best? What were the activities in that time frame that you did? Maybe some of those activities you don't do anymore, but what were they? Playing sports, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, cheerleading, whatever it was, right? And then you have to figure out and learn about what I'm calling total immersion, and that's from the research. When I talked about when they put the people in that new facility, it was total immersion into it. It wasn't just a little bit, right? And you may have had this experience on your own where you end up totally immersed in something from your past, but it shifts your physiology, right? Because your brain doesn't know the difference between a real or vividly imagined event. So if you can really step into an immersion of it, you will begin to experience it, right? And we can do hypnotic immersion. It doesn't have to be real. It can be in vivo, right? Where you're just imagining it if you do it right. Right? So you step in and do this hypnotic immersion, right? And there are some things you can do from the outside to make this even more impactful, right? And it brings that youthful mind, body, and spirit back, and it gets you to take action, And I want to go back to this, right? And it's kind of like this total immersion, right? And how powerful it is. Like I said, I've been thinking about this for years because I'm maturing, and you have to think about how our bodies change, right? And one of the things that you see with people that mature successfully and stay very active and youthful is they can accept the fact that, let's say, your tennis game is going to be much different in your 50s than in your 20s. Doesn't again mean that it's any better or any worse. It's just different, right? In fact, you have a different skill set, but you have more memories to draw from, more experience, so you can play smarter, right? So, it's just, and it's refusing some of the other things, right? And so that's the power of it, right? And I'm going to give an example of a hypnotic immersion in a little while. And to do this, part of this, you have to refuse Western society's ideas on aging, right? Uh, I use the example, this is my wife, right? She got injured doing something with trapeze. And so she had to go to a doctor, right? A Western trained doctor. And of course the doctor's helping her doing this, and then find out how she got hurt. And he goes, well, you got to give up trapeze. And she goes, I'm not going to give up trapeze. And he basically almost said, well, I don't want to help you. You need to give up trapeze. And I'm paraphrasing, but she said, well, no, I think I need to get a doctor that wants to help me live the life I want to live. Any idiot doctor can, make somebody, help them but not help them. Yeah, I need a doctor that's going to help me do what I do. I work a lot with one. He's a general practitioner at a lot of these facilities, and he's starting to do sports medicine too. And one reason he likes sports medicine is he likes working with athletes, and he likes when they say, I want to get back to my game, whatever that was, right? Because, again, people come in and go, I know I can't do that anymore. It's kind of like the joke, right, where guy asks his doctor, he's 75, right, and gets a big physical, and he's in talking to his doctor. And he asks his doctor. Doctor tells him he's fine, blood's fine, everything, all the tests, okay, fine. And he goes, Doc, you think I'm going to live to be 80? He says, well, let me ask you a question, the doctor says. Do you smoke? He goes, no, I gave up smoking years ago. Okay. Do you drink? No, I don't drink anymore. It's not good for you. Okay, good. Do you exercise? Yeah, but I quit the strenuous exercise. I walk a little bit. I get some exercise. Oh, good. Do you eat a lot of red meat? A lot of, what's your diet? He goes, oh, I eat very healthy, very bland, Oh, okay. What about your sex life? Is it wild and passionate? No, really cut back on that. Oh, okay. Do you travel a lot? No, it's too dangerous. Oh, okay. So the doctor looks at him and says, what the hell do you want to live to be 80 for? Right? So, the patient was following Western society, right? And if you think about it, it's like, I want to do the things I want to do. I may have to change them a little bit, but I want to enjoy my life as I mature. I don't want to stop it, right? And so to do that, you're going to have to refuse this, this idea on Western aging, right? And adopt more of an Eastern mindset where, experience and age is something to be appreciated, right? Because it gives you a different mindset. You have a different attitude, right? And then you need to keep finding those youthful examples and use those to reinforce the things that you want, right? And it's always fun when you get into this because then you can correct incorrect statements, right, about aging. I was in a show a few months ago, right? Funny thing happened on the way to the forum, and I was helping out, right? I was helping out a director because he had his lead chorus guy quit, and the show was opening, so he called me and asked would I help. I said sure. So I only had a couple weeks, but I came in and I had to do shoulder rolls. It's a very physical thing, right? And I was on people's backs and up and carrying people, and it was just, I was running around. The other guys were literally teenagers, right? And it was fun. Well, one of the guys playing one of the other roles, one day at rehearsal, I think we were in dress rehearsal, and we had to keep doing this shoulder roll thing over and over, and we're standing there. And he goes, doesn't that bother you? I said, it's something, you got to do it, Does it hurt? A little bit, but it's going to hurt whether I do it or not, And then he said, yeah, well, but when you get to be my age, you're going to cut this out, You've been doing this. I knew him a little bit, from theater. And when you get to be my age, you're going to, and I said, well, I don't know. I still do karate. Yeah, but, even that's going to stop. So we talked for a minute, and I said, well, how old are you? And he told me. And I said, oh, I guess you're right. He just smiled, and I said, I'm never going to get to be your age. Again, because I was older than him, about a year and a half or 2 years older. And he looked at me, and, dude, I am fighting. I don't believe what you just said. It's not true for me, And he was kind of offended because whenever you challenge somebody's reality, sometimes they get offended. But by the run of the show, we were talking about, and what did I do to stay active and to do the things I was doing? And I pointed out, well, first thing, I don't use that kind of language. Age is a number. It has nothing to do with what's going on in my life, right? There's probably times when I was in my 40s, I felt like in my 80s. And I hope that when I'm in my 80s, there's going to be most days when I feel like I'm in my 40s, right? So it's that correct those incorrect statements, right? And to have fun with it, right? Right? And challenge yourself. Again, when you look at the youthful examples, they're usually challenging yourself. The 100-and-something-year-old yoga instructor, the guy in the bench press. When I used to go to competitions, there were very few of the senior level people still competing. And if they did compete, they competed in kata or weapons, where it's all been. Nobody wanted to fight. Nobody wanted to do kumite. And I'm like, that's the fun stuff. That's where you challenge yourself. And again, I'd hear people go, well, when you get to be, I don't know. I've been doing karate back then it was 25 years, now 30 something. I'm not going to stop, right? And, so you got to challenge yourself, right? And so this is the fun stuff, right? So what you need to do basically in 4 steps, right, is change your mind and keep the change, right? Stay on task about keeping a youthful mindset and a youthful attitude and a youthful vigor. Focus on youthful attitude, mindset, health, right? Accept new youthful realities. That's where I said that as you mature, your game may change a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to give anything up. Just you're going to have to make some adapting. And it's kind of like, there's an example of somebody, they went out and gardened with their grandchild, right, for several hours, a hot day. And I could picture here in Florida, right? And the next day they get up, grandkid goes home. Next day they get up and they're sore. Their back's sore, their shoulders are sore. And the first thing they begin to think is, I'm getting too old for this. I shouldn't be doing this. Yada, yada, yada. Well, if their grandkid was around, they were talking to them, what they'd find was their grandkid was sore too. Because if you're not used to doing whatever activity it is and you go do it for a few hours, you're probably going to be sore. When the big difference is, the kid's probably just going to go, well, I'm sore, work through it and keep going, where the traditional person that accepts aging will sit down, not do anything. They won't work through it, right? So you have to do that. It's kind of like this last weekend. I got the wonderful opportunity. I'm in a little action movie. And Saturday we had to film this thing at a marina. And it's Florida. It's June. It's hot, right? And so we started filming late in the day, but it's hot, right? And I had to wear a long sleeve shirt and dress pants and dress shoes, right? Because anyway, so if anybody knows anything about movies, it's like, okay, we set the scene. Okay, you got to run about it's about 30 yards, right? Run and then run from around a building holding the gun and stop and point the gun because they're getting ready to go into a shootout. It's an action movie. And, okay, great. Let's do it again. Okay? Action. You got to run, stop, do this, right? Action. Run, stop, do it. Okay, move the camera. Do it again. Oh, wait, no. You went too far. They went too far. You didn't say your line at the right time. Although, it's tedious making a movie. So this went on from about 3 something in the afternoon till 8 in the heat in Florida, right? I was drenched. I had to take my shirt off and dry it. And, and then the gunfight. Then we had a big fight scene. I literally got kicked in the head. It was kind of fun, and then we're doing this and we're doing that, right? Everybody's beat, right? 8 o'clock, we finish up a little bit, 7:30, 8 o'clock. And we're going out to eat. And we sit down. And I think, yes, I was probably the most mature person at the table when we sat down. And I didn't say anything. And a few other people went, wow, is it just me or are you guys tired? And I was beat. But I'm like, well, a little bit. But, hey, it's no big deal. And it was fun because I saw the attitude, right? And it was, it was interesting, right? And the next day we had to be back on set, and a couple of the younger people, in their 20s, they go, man, I'm still tired from yesterday, because we weren't used to being out in the heat and fighting like that and doing that stuff, especially in full, regular dress clothes, you know. So did it change? Yes. But it's a new reality. But you know what? That's going to be normal, right? And again, what happens as you mature is you begin to blame things on aging when in fact it's just a reality. It has nothing really to do with age. And so what you want to do is get a group that is active when you're in your age group, right? I know a few years ago when I first moved to Florida, I started training with these guys at a dojo, and we were all about the same age. And I think I'm the only guy still training very hard. And again, the one guy when I talk, it's just time to start to slow down and do that. I'm like, why? It's fun. It's doing this, sparring with the kids, having some fun, And again, they'd make the comment, well, it's easy for you. No, it's not easy for me. But I'm not going to do this. And again, I'm modeling the people I see. Well, Nishiyama was in his 70s, and he was still training almost every day. I mean, he would lead the class. He was active. He didn't just stand around and pose in his gi. He actually trained. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I know he passed on, but and I wasn't in his group. I'd moved, but somebody said he was literally training like that till a few months before his passing. So that's the mindset and the attitude, right? Some of that was from that karate attitude of that style of Okinawan karate, So you want to do this. So let's do this technique, right? When I said about what age were you when you felt really youthful and vibrant, and what year was that, right? So you can think about the year, right? And what were you doing? Was there any activity in particular, playing a sport, doing cheerleading, doing something, maybe something at school or your job or whatever? What was going on, right? Okay? Because you can't think the thought and be the thinker. I want you to be focusing on that. The age, the activities, and begin to think about, what were you wearing? What was your favorite clothes? What was your favorite outfit when you were at that age? The pants, the shirt, the shoes, what did you wear when you went out? If you went out dancing or something, what was it, right? Okay, got it? Now let's do this. Because you can't think the thought and be the thinker. So take a deep breath and close your eyes. Now with your eyes closed, just relax. Relax your mind, relax your body. With every breath that you take and every beat of your heart, becoming more relaxed and more at ease. More relaxed and more at ease. Every day in every way, you're feeling better physically, mentally, emotionally. So just go deeper now. Deeper now. And I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And with every number I count, I just want you to imagine letting go. Like a wave, an ocean wave, washing up over you, washing back down again. Taking with it all the stress and tension of the day. 1, a wave washes over you and washes down. Takes with it the stress and strain of the day. 2, going even deeper now as that ocean wave goes even deeper, washes over you and goes into every cell, every fiber of your being. 3, another wave washes into you and out of you and through you and about you, relaxing you, holding you in love and nurturing. 4, just letting go. And 5, go deeper now. Deeper and deeper. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Good. Good. And 5, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Now, because you're at peace and relaxed, I'd like you to begin to think about that activity that you love to do and how you feel youthful and vibrant when you were doing it. So drift back now to that time and that place and settle into that younger you. See it, hear it, and feel it as if you're there. Think about the music that played on the radio, the songs that you heard, how it made you feel when you heard your favorite music on the radio. Look around and see your clothes, your favorite clothes. See your friends dressed in their best. Yeah, it looks good. See the cars you were in, the transportation you used. Notice your hair. How did your hair look? that wonderful hairstyle from then. That's right. The jewelry. Now notice the friends and family around you, how they looked, what they were doing. See them. Notice the calendar and the date and the time. And again, hear that music. That's right. And think about that activity that makes you feel wonderful. Good. Very good. Good. Very good. And now imagine as you're feeling it, imagine how your brain feels on the inside. Those neural pathways of the music hitting your ears, and and you're moving and you're grooving and you feel wonderful. How the clothes feel on your body. The smells that are in the air. Combing your hair. Seeing your friends. Doing that activity or getting ready to do that activity that you love. That's right. That's right. See it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. And notice that it brings up some new neural pathways because your brain remembers. That's right. And you can remember to forget about being older and feel this youthful feeling now. Take that physiology on. Notice your body changing. Strength coming back. Vibrancy coming back. That's right. It's like those new neural pathways are re-established. It's like the wiring was always there and now you're using it again. That's right. See it, hear it, feel it, smell it, taste it, touch it. Think about your best friend at this time in your life. And the other friends. That's right. Your intimate friends, boyfriends, girlfriends. Think about the adults in your life and how they look and how they're vibrant and acting. The coaches, the teachers, your friends' parents. We all had that friend's parents that you went, oh my God, but it can make you smile now. That's right. Reliving those old memories in a new way because they're new now. They're happening now. And you think about friends you haven't thought of in years. Music pops into your mind you haven't thought of in a long time. That's right. See it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. That's right. And lock in that feeling in your mind. That feeling in your mind. Good. Good. And now bringing that feeling back in this limited way. Enjoying it. But bringing back that attitude of youth and zest and vitality. That's right. That's right. Good. That's right. And come back to today, looking back on then and making that loop so that you is now in the new you with that youthful attitude. That's right. And you keep thinking, go for it, do it now, let it happen. This is the real me. That's right. Good. Age is nothing but a number. That's right. Great. And now I'm going to count from 1 to 3 and bring you back. But you come back feeling fabulous. You come back feeling better than before. Good. Good. 1, coming on up. 2, drifting to the surface. 3, wide awake, clear-headed, and refreshed. 4, opening your eyes. All the way back. Good. So what we just did, that's a minor example of a process to expand. I call it total immersion hypnosis. And there's much more to it, but that's kind of a little example. And there'll be a lot of homework to do this right to make it even more impactful. Because the big thing to do and remember is you can't think the thought, be the thinker, and do the process. You know, a lot of people, I'll do it myself. Well, this is the hard part, right? To think the thought, be the thinker, and do the process. It's like you get thought lost in the process, get lost in the thought. So it's also why it's hard sometimes to be hypnotized by other hypnotists, because you start getting into the oh, I like that. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, So, I mean, I just did this weight loss one, and people are doing great in the weight loss program. But my big thing is all the waking hypnosis I have to do, because I know when I get to the hypnotic techniques, they're not going to be following me the way that I hoped. So it's quite fun on my part, right? Because again, it's challenging me to be better, right? And I know when I'm in the middle of this, I can't think the thought, be the thinker, and do the process. It must be guided, right? And you need a step-by-step plan. So here's what I'd want you to have, right? Learn about the aging process, some of that current research, and things that work. They are finding some vitamins and minerals and things that, if done right, they do help stimulate the pituitary gland, growth hormone, things like that. Other things that you can do to, ameliorate the aging process and help regain some of that youthful vigor, right? Number 2 is you need to change your beliefs and keep the change. 3 is you need to model youthful aging, right? And then learn to use total immersion hypnosis and techniques, right? To take the time and do it right, right? And let me go back to this total immersion. I told about the example of the people when they put them in the special facility, and they totally flipped them back. Like I said, I've been thinking about this for years as I mature, moved to Florida, saw the aging, work around elderly. But what happened one time, I was driving back from the Guild. I always use that example because it always happens in August, and it's always the second weekend in August. But on the way back, it's middle of August because I've been blessed to teach before and after the conference. So I was there 4 or 5 days after the conference, and I'm driving back here to Florida. I drove that time. Not my motorhome, but my truck I had at the time, SUV. And I'm driving back. And it's a beautiful day up there in the Northeast, probably around that New York area. And the windows are down. I'm driving, and I have Sirius radio in my car. And so I was listening to the 70s station, and the Casey Kasem's AP Top 40 comes on, right? And I start listening to it, and and yes, it's the old songs, but when we think about oldies songs, I always use the example of, someone now like my daughter who grew up in basically the 90s. She was, 80s and 90s. But when she thinks of the 60s or 70s, she only thinks, there was the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Four Tops, maybe the Supremes, Stevie Wonder. Because that's all they play on the oldie station. Maybe in the later 70s, Billy Joel. I mean, if you think about it, they only play, it's a limited play set, right? There's none of all this like Yes and Three Dog Night and the Creedence Clearwater and, the list, Sly and the Family Stone, right? So anyway, so they're playing this, and it happened to be from that week of like August 15th or whatever it was. And I think they picked it was 1972, so it was going into like my junior year. So anyway, I'm driving along and I'm listening to this music, and it wasn't the big, like the number one song. It was the songs that I probably hadn't heard in that almost 40 years, 35, 40 years, right? And so I'm dancing in the car, how you get, da-da-da-da-da, windows are down, I'm driving, and I'm just singing, having a great time, Conference is over, I've got stress gone, I'm dancing in the car, and I pull up at this rest area, park my car, and run up to use the facilities and get something to drink. And it was up the hill. You had to park and run up this little hill. I bounce up the hill. I do my business. I go get a diet soda, right? I bounce down the hill, and I'm drinking a soda. Started the car, listening to it, right? Stretching. And then it dawned on me, right? I'd been driving for several hours. I jumped out of the car, ran up the hill, was bouncing around, doing this. Usually when I drive for several hours, you see me get out of the car, shake my knees, wiggle my hips, because I've surgeries and broken bones and all that. But what happened was, through a fluke, I was in total immersion, right? The music, especially the music you never hear. It was a hot day, just like in the summer when I was going to football camp, right? I was driving a car, windows down, sun back. It was just like I was driving my little Volkswagen in 1972, right? And it's like, wow, I had an instantaneous total immersion hypnotic technique happen to me, right? And what was really cool in the music they were playing, when he would say, well, we're going to play an oldie from 5 years ago, of course that would take it back to like 1967, because nothing was newer than that. And if I remember right, they didn't even have any commercials, so there was no commercial breaks. And they actually had a couple of commercials from the 1970s embedded in it. So it was brilliant. It took me back, right? And so there's things you can do to begin to add this to your repertoire so you can really experience what I'm talking about. So what I'm introducing is the reverse aging hypnosis process, right? Reverse aging hypnosis. I believe it's the best course on staying youthful and regaining that youthful zest, because the experiences I've had in psychology and the research I've done and applied it to the real world, from like I've used it somewhat in the assisted living and see it make effect in my own life and of course in other people's lives. And if you don't have this course, of course, you'll continue to grow older in mind, body, and spirit. And it's the things you don't do that you regret the most, right? And you're growing older daily anyway, so you might as well do it now. But I mean, when you think back, go back again and think about when you were young and vibrant and feeling good. And, you know, as you mature and look back on that age, it's the jobs you didn't take, the women or the people you didn't ask out, the things you didn't do, the coulda, woulda, shouldas that you regret. It's not the things you do. If it doesn't work, big deal. It's the things you don't do. So I don't want you to regret not doing this now when you could do it and have some fun. So let me give you the webinar dates. I'm going to do this one differently because it has to be set up this way because of the immersion stuff. Module 1 will be June 25th at 11 a.m. Right? Module 2 will be June 25th at 1 p.m. So it'll be a little over an hour. Take a break, a half-hour break. Come back and do Module 2. All right? So it'll be much more intensive. Module 3 will be Thursday, June 27th at 11 a.m. Right? And then the second one would be the last one, Module 4, at 1 p.m. on that June 27th date. Right? Now, all sessions will be recorded and available that day for instant replay on the membership site, because you'll want to replay this and begin to develop it. Because once you master this, you can begin to do your own protocol for your clients, right? And it almost has to be customized. So it's kind of cool, right? So reverse aging hypnosis. If I was going to charge by breaking it down. Module 1, a little over an hour. I charge about $150 to $175 for a session. So let's just say $147. Module 2, about changing your mind and keeping it. $147. That includes all the hours of research I've done on the research on aging. And then we'll begin to learn the youthful aging immersion technique and how to do it. And of course, we'll do it again in Module 4 and help implement the shift. I forgot to put down, we'll have a follow-up module where we'll take some questions, answer them, and do a follow-up in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the end of the course, right? There'll be challenges at every level that if you do the challenges, it reinforces everything that we do, which the challenges are a checklist, so you make sure you do the techniques to make the immersion and the research even more powerful. We'll have recordings. We may have transcripts, but the recordings will be available with the community that you can log on, make comments, get comments from other people, right? And of course, lifetime access to the recordings and the things, and it'll constantly be being updated, and your lifetime access will be whatever price you pay to get in. When I raise the price, you'll be locked in at the current rate, right? So if we use those numbers, that would be $15.73 is what it would be valued at. So I was going to charge $397 for this, right? But what I'm going to do is do it for $197 because I want the group that is in it at the first level to really experience it, right? And begin to build the community, right? And so, and again, first people in, do the best. Just think about the people that invested in, Microsoft or Facebook early, right? Or Google. something like that. So I'm going to do it for $197. And again, it's a special offer because when I added it up and did everything, it should be priced around $397, right? But I want people to experience the power of total immersion and feel youthful again. And again, the replays will be available for review anytime, right? So again, it's just $197. So go here, www.reversaginghypnosis.com, reverseaginghypnosis.com, and that'll take you to where you can sign up and get into it. And it's risk-free. If you're not happy in the next 30 days, you can get your money back. But of course, then you lose access to the training in the community and all the updates that'll be going on. And so you have a decision to make. The good news is it's an easy decision. And again, it's the things you don't do you regret. And I don't want you to have a bad feeling about regret doing it. So just do it, right? So again, go here now, reverseaginghypnosis.com, and sign up. Without it, you'll have the same old mindset. If nothing changes, nothing changes. You'll feel old and continue feeling older because that's what society tells us to do. And you'll have no energy, and you'll be a bad role model for your clients and your own family. If you do the course, when you do the course now, you'll regain that youthful zest. You'll get a better attitude, a great attitude. You'll become a wonderful model for your clients and your family. You'll have more energy, and I like to say, yeah, baby, you'll get that back, right? So what to do? Go to reverseaginghypnosis.com to secure your spot right now. Click the pay button. It goes to PayPal, secure site. Send your $197 to Dr. Will Horton and NFNLP LLC, right? And it says log into the membership site in the next few minutes because then you can sign up for the webinars. If you're getting this replay after the webinars have taken place, you can log on and go right to the process. You can do them all in a row. You can spread them out because you get lifetime membership, and you can go and just do it as often as you want, right? So go ahead and do it right now. reverseaginghypnosis.com. You'll enjoy the process. I guarantee it. Have fun with it. And remember, it's your mindset that's everything. So I'd like to thank you for being a part of this call, and have a wonderful day. Great.